Walid Khalili was arrested or detained when he is an ambulance driver with the Palestinian Medical Relief Society, and he was answering a call for 4 injured men at that time on that day, where on his way to the for the 4 injured men, he witnessed Israeli forces shooting the 4 men to death. Where when the soldiers saw Walid Khalili approaching the 4 injured Palestinians who were later killed by Israeli forces, according to the testimonies of Walid Khalili, the soldiers called out Khalili, who ran to a nearby building to seek refuge and shelter from Israeli forces on the ground. Then later he was detained immediately in the field. He was interrogated in the field and asked what he was doing there. He explained that he was basically on a rescue mission after being called to rescue the 4 injured men. He was subjected to ill treatment from the beginning. He was asked to completely strip off his clothes in public. He was immediately cuffed by his hand and feet and blindfolded, and then transferred to detention facilities and Israeli prisons, where he was interrogated repeatedly, specifically asking for forced confession. What I mean by this is, according to what Walid Khalili explained to us, most of the interrogation was about, are you a member of Hamas? Do you know where Hamas is keeping hostages? And even with the repeated denial of any information that Walid Khalili has, when he reached Sdei Timan, he was hearing voices and screams of other detainees. And at that time, Israeli soldiers removed the blindfold on his eyes, and the testimony Walid Khalili gave us, myself, it was extremely harrowing to understand. He said immediately when the blindfold was removed, he saw hundreds, he said dozens of Palestinian detainees being suspended from chains that are connected to the ceiling of the warehouse in Sdei Timan. He saw the men wearing diapers and not being fully clothed or properly clothed, suspended by chains. And then he understood where these screams and sounds of torture are coming from. He then told us and walked us through how Israeli forces forced him to wear a garment that has wires all around it and a headband that also had wires around it, and he was later suspended as well, similar to the other detainees, from chains that were in the ceilings of Sdei Timan. And this garment, this white overall, basically was used to electrocute and shock Walid Khalili repeatedly over and over during his interrogation or during his detention in Sdei Timan. So he was electrocuted. He as well as he reported about cases of being struck with gasoline or being gasoline being thrown at him. He also, during his transfer not to Sdei Timan but a different detention facility in a Naqab authorized by the Israeli prison services, he had a Palestinian male detainee sit next to him who was visibly bleeding from his bottom area, and the man told Walid Khalili that he was subjected to rape by 3 soldiers who raped him with an M16 assault rifle during the strip search and during his interrogation. So unfortunately, at the end of the interview, when I was speaking with Walid Khalili, he was pleading for us, pleading for the international community to really understand what the situation is for Palestinian detainees. It's sexual violence, it's rape, it's medical neglect, it's deprivation of food, and it's all happening all at once, non-stop. And these are, extremely harrowing testimonies. I worked with the Palestinian Prisoner Organization for 3 years, and we have never heard that thorough or that brutal and extremely violent testimonies coming out.